You're now tuning into the Who and How Club with your host, Arys Dejan.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Arys Dejan, checking in. It is episode 49. It feels good. Let me turn on this mic quickly. Hold on. Let me turn up the volume. All right, let's try this again. How's it going, everybody? It is Arys Dejan checking in once again, and I started off by saying it is episode 49, which feels really damn good. We are one episode away from our 50th birthday. It's been a long time coming. You know the saying. You are the Who and How Club. I am the Who and How Club. We are the Who and How Club. We are the Who's and How's of this world. And without you, without me, there is no we. And every week when we check in with each other, we're doing this for each other and for the people who are listening in. For the people who need to hear some positivity in their lives. For the people who need to understand that these challenges that we're all going through are temporary and they won't last forever. I do my best to share my stories and my experiences so that you all can either learn from it, whether it's learning what to do or not to do. I try my best to be as transparent as possible to everybody who supports the show and listens in, because why even do this if we're not going to be honest with ourselves or with each other? You know what I mean? We got to learn to forgive ourselves and learn to forgive each other. We got to learn how to not judge. But that goes for ourselves and one another as well. Because you can judge yourself. You can hold things against yourself. You can not forgive yourself. You can be stuck in those modes. All the while we're thinking that we got to forgive somebody else on the external and aside from us. But we actually have to forgive ourselves in certain moments and times. And then with that, we'll be able to forgive other people. It all starts within. You know what I mean? And this is the show where you can start within freely without any judgment and be honest with yourself and with others. So I just want to continue to thank everybody who continues to support the movement. Episode 49, I'm still shocked at it myself, but we're grinding and we're going to keep going until we get to 149 and 349 and episode, 849. We're going to keep this going. As long as I'm inspired and I'm inspiring others and you all feel inspired and you tune in, we're going to keep this energy flowing and going. I won't keep you all too long. This is just a quick check-in. I wanted to update you all on my therapy journey, or my journey to therapy, as I like to call it. I found a therapist. So can we get some hand claps for that? That's right. I found a therapist. Now, I had touched base with a practice recently. And the individual that I spoke with and did like an initial assessment with, I could tell that just speaking with that individual was going to, keep me, it was probably going to trigger more anxiety. And it's not to her fault. I don't believe that everybody is for everybody. And maybe her style would match for somebody else or match with somebody else's energy. But immediately I could tell that I wasn't going to enjoy the conversations that I would have with her. And in those moments you feel bad, right? But I don't want anybody to ever feel bad about, having to change your therapist or say no to somebody if something doesn't fit right for what you're looking for. Energy is everything. Time is important, and you don't want to waste any minute of it, especially when it comes to your mental health or your life journey. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to wasting time, especially with the wrong people or the wrong kind of situations. We look back and we try not to live in regret. But we do regret some of the time that we wasted within the wrong situations or wrong people that we surrounded ourselves by or involved ourselves in. So when you get to that level of awareness, you start to really choose to use your time wisely, and you try to use your energy and place your energy in the right places. You don't want to waste any minute or any type of vibe on the wrong thing when you get to a certain stage in life. You know what I mean? That is the stage that I'm in currently. So I'm not just going to try something new if I already feel like it's not the right thing for me. So that individual that I spoke with at that initial practice, it wasn't the right fit. It was my first time even doing something like that. So I was still trying to get my foot in, but I had a beautiful conversation with a new person. Her name is Dr. Sims. And, she's from the city and she has her own practice, and immediately her energy and her bubbliness, I guess, and how she responded to my inquiries, and we immediately started sharing things, and the energy was reciprocal. And the only problem with that was that she's not meeting with any of her clients in person. So I was a bit reluctant because I felt like, an in-person experience, I feel I would benefit from that more. So I was a bit reluctant, and after our great conversation, we were speaking about where her and I both sort of came from, our backgrounds, our ethnicities, and she's mixed, I'm mixed, and we were just talking and sharing some stuff, and she just seemed like a happy person, and I felt like she would be the right person for me to speak with. And I explained to her that this is my first time, and I am looking for someone to lead these sessions, you know what I mean, just to pick my brain and really get me out of this reluctancy that I have, when it comes to speaking to someone that doesn't even know me. The kind of therapy that I have experienced in is whatever I've seen on television, maybe on The Sopranos and stuff like that. So that, yeah, that's just, I've had my guard up, but she's just been on the ball ever since her and I had our initial conversation. So when I spoke with her, I said, you know what, I'm going to call a few places, and I'll get back to her after I touch base, because my focus was really, meeting with somebody in person. After I got off the phone with her, and she took that very well. She was like, yeah, she totally understands. And, she was very supportive, and, she was like, take advantage of this opportunity and all that jazz. If you guys listen to the previous episodes of the podcast, you'll know why I'm going to be taking the psychotherapy and all of that jazz. So, I got off the phone, and I had a list of places to call, but just something in my gut was telling me, you know what, I don't need to call anywhere else. I found the person that I need. Even if the sessions are going to be online, that's fine. It's not about where this takes place, but the fact that it just takes place is what's important. And if I found the right person, I'm not going to just let this opportunity pass me. So I never called anybody. I never called her right back. I still took a day or two to just take breathe and just really think about it, but not overthink. I was still going with my gut feeling, which was, leading me to her. And it felt right. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with her regardless. But I just wanted to give myself some time so that I knew that I wasn't just making an impulsive decision. I wanted to ensure that I would be okay with not doing sessions in person. And sometimes you got to take some time to yourself to figure stuff like that out. You don't want to rush something like this. You want to make sure you do it right and that you're certain and sure of yourself. And once I called her back a couple days later, and she was happy that I went with her, and we spoke again, and she just set everything up online with the online portal, and I have like a couple assessment sessions with her in this upcoming week. Now, I'm not big on people diagnosing me. or diagnosing anybody for that matter. I call them the alphabet people, you know, and they want to place these little alphabets and acronyms on you so that you can identify what you might have, quote unquote. I've never been into that. I've never been into that. And not because I'm in denial or anything like that. I just don't believe that it could be the things that we're going through, the things that we're affected by in the heart and in the brain. It's deeper than just a diagnosis. You know what I mean? And I don't want to reduce it to just these things. But I do know what we've gone through in our lives in the past and the things that we haven't dealt with, they do affect us in the future and in the present, obviously. So I'm going to explain that to her. You know, I'm going to be fully transparent with her. And like I said, energy is everything. And the experiences that we're going through in life can definitely shape us. That doesn't mean that we are diagnosed with something or that we're sick or, you know, we don't need to use all these terms just to identify, but that's us as human beings, you know. Like I've said before, like animals don't know. Like we've chosen to call a shark a shark. I don't think a shark cares that it's called a shark. We've named it that, you know. Beings have named the shark a shark, but the shark exists whether it has a name or not. But us as a human race, in order to understand, we've had to place these labels onto things and living things. And, you know, imagine living in a world where nothing had a name. You know, just picture it for a second. What would that look like? How would we operate? Could we just exist and survive without names and titles and, you know? So that's my journey. Here's a key point too. So my birthday is on April 26th, which is this upcoming Monday. My therapy session starts on the 27th, the day after. So I do feel like the universe has really done this on purpose. Made all of this happen on purpose because I am going through a transitional stage in my life. You know what I mean? And you know, this will all lead into the new rule for today, for April rules, right? But it's trusting the process. And we'll get to that later on in a little bit. But it's just funny. I laugh at things like that. I feel like sometimes the universe really does things on purpose for you to, you know, just roll with the punches and just move with the current. This is your life. This is your life. This is what's happening in your life right now, and you have to just accept it and roll with it. You know what I mean? So birthdays have never meant so much to me to the point where I need to go out and party or have drinks or birthday cake or anything like that per se. But each birthday is some sort of milestone because it's like, yo, I survived another whatever. I truly feel that our ages aren't really what they are. You know, like how are we one after, like a year after we've been on this earth? But yeah, we were alive in our mother's womb for like 9 months before even coming out. And then when we come out, we're age 0? That never made sense to me. I do feel like we're all older than we really are. And, you know, I've expressed my ideals on time and the structures around that and the concepts around that and stuff like that. But if we're just talking about what we know, you know, and the birthdays and all that jazz and the time and age, whatever, you know, I'm turning age 32 apparently. So that's what this upcoming Monday represents. And this will be a milestone for me because it is the transition into therapy where I'm going to get some additional assistance outside of, you know, God and my family and what my prayers and my routines. And art has really helped me express myself and get things out on paper as well. So I'll be able to put therapy under my belt as well. So I do encourage folks to, you know, do this. And I'm not just saying it because I'm doing it. It's just ironic that therapy has come up a lot lately since this whole thing has come out, you know, this process of me doing this. And I've been having conversations. I had a conversation with someone today who I I sort of look up to, and I didn't realize that I look up to her until today's conversation. Um, and I was able to humble myself during that conversation because she kind of called me out on something, and I had to put my stubbornness aside and be like, yeah, you know what, you're right. And I think out of a lot of the people that are in my life right now, I think she'd be the only person that I would be like, yeah, you know what, I would take heed and listen and really agree with everything she's saying. But she shared something about her therapy experience in her life and the reasoning behind why she has taken therapy and her experiences and what it's meant to her and stuff like that. So just a lot of conversations about energy and therapy and people's experiences and that have been coming up. I did a Reiki session last week, and I'm following the individual that I don't want to put her on blast, but she held a session for the organization that I'm working at currently, and that was a positive experience as well. And I'm currently speaking with someone who is a Reiki practitioner, and she has her own thing going on, and her and I have connected on a deep level. So it's just, I'm just being drenched in this type of energy. And I'm also at the same time being challenged with my energy and how to manage it on a day-to-day basis, because I'm dealing with some really fucked up people right now, especially with the work that I do and stuff like that. Just people, at times I just feel tired of dealing with stupid people and people who just don't know better, and people who don't really mean well. You can make mistakes and still mean well. Because you've made mistakes, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. But there are those people that exist on this planet to balance us out who really don't mean well, and they deliberately, they just want to cause damage and stuff like that. And I'm ready to get out. I'm ready to work for myself. I'm not really inspired to work for anybody else anymore. So this is all part of my transition. I have some good news coming up to announce soon. So this podcast is therapy to me, and being able to speak with all of you, all the guests that come on the show, and just share pieces of my life with all of you on a weekly basis is therapy as well, and that has helped. So I'll keep you all updated. And my birthday's on April 26th, so I'll update you all on everything that I got going on. But if there's something that you want to pursue, especially if it's therapy, I would say just go 2 feet in. Decisions like these, you can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Be certain about it. Be sure of yourself. Be humble. And be open. Nothing's wrong with speaking to somebody that you don't know, and you'll find insight. I guarantee it. So I'll keep you all updated on my therapy journey. Since we last spoke, we had a few losses. Last episode was dedicated to Goldie, my guinea pig, who passed away. I have visited her a couple times since. So, she's doing well. Her body is still where I placed her. But I hear her sometimes, in my apartment, just like treating, like the little noise that they squeaking, I guess, I would say treats, and she would be like, treats. Like that was our little routine. And there are times where I can hear her saying that in the apartment, so, that was at the end of March. That was the last episode. We recently lost, DMX. So RIP DMX. We also lost Black Rob. I wanted to just, focus on this for a quick second, because DMX, when I was a child, right, and I was learning about music, you all know I'm a rapper. I do music. Like, music has been a part of my life since forever, not just in a generic way or a general way, but me pursuing music and being taught about music by my aunts and the grown-ups that I looked up to, and my mother, being just purchasing my first CD. I'll never forget that experience. So growing up, there are little things that stick out in my mind, that I could just remember so vividly, with certain musical moments in my life. One moment that sticks out is when I first heard anybody say SMD on a track or on a song, and that was DMX. I was a kid living in the West End. It was like 98. And I was staying with when I was growing up, my mom, she kind of left me and my sisters in certain places for certain periods of time, while she was doing her own thing. That's another story for another day. But one of the families that I was left with growing up, it was a black family, and they lived above, like when you see a plaza and you see all the convenience stores and stuff like that, there are 9 times out of 10, there are apartments above those stores and those plazas or whatever. And a lot of the times those apartments are huge. Some of them are 2-storied even, you know what I mean? So I was staying with a family that lived in one of those. It was, I think, 3-storied. In fact, it had 3 floors. And the son of the family had a tape, and it was DMX's tape, his first album. It's Dark and Hell is Hot. And he was playing Get At Me Dog, Where My Dog's At, with Chic Luch. And I was just laying in the bed, I was just sleeping. I was just chilling, I never owned my own music. I never had tapes or anything aside from what my mom had. My mom had Mary Jane Girls and all that stuff, but I never had hip hop tapes or anything. And I'm listening to Get At Me Dog, and I'm like, yo, this beat is crazy. But I immediately knew that beat was also used by in the Northern Touch song by the Rascals. So I already made that connection, and I'm young, you know what I'm saying? But I just remember music videos on Much Music, and I was just connecting the dots, but I didn't know who DMX was. But I'm listening to this track, and I'm falling asleep, but he's playing it next to the bed and on the stereo. And I hear DMX say SMD. And if you all know what SMD means, right? And I'm like, that's the first time I'm hearing those words, but also on a track, on a song. And I'm like, I shouldn't be listening to this, but this shit is crazy and it's so dope. But I never said anything, when I heard those lyrics. I never said to the son, yo, play that back. I was just really internalizing the music and the sound. And DMX's voice just sounded so unique. And then I remember seeing the black and white music video, and seeing Russell Simmons. I already knew who these people were. I knew what Def Jam was, I just never spoke about it. It was as if I was doing my own research in my own time and just paying close attention. I loved watching music videos as a kid. And I think that video was shot at the Shelter, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I just knew about these things already, and I would read the liner notes from the cassette tape and stuff like that, and from CDs. I would always review producers and who wrote and who's a part of the arranging and the mixing and the mastering and stuff like that. So yeah, my first introduction to DMX was hearing him say SMD on that track, and I just fell in love with DMX, and I always wondered, what the hell does DMX stand for? And it wasn't until years later that, I found out, I think DMX was one of the machines that he used to make beats or to play beats, or someone was making beats, and I think the machine was called DMX. And he took it from that. And also Darkman X was sort of what the acronym stood for. So, fast forward some months later, and I'm living in Maple, and I befriend somebody who's from Newfoundland, down the street. My first introduction to someone who's from Newfoundland, and he has flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, and that was within the same year. And him and I'm a kid, and he's like a grown ass man, and we're just debating about DMX. And we're playing the album, you know what I mean? And we're talking about the Rough Riders anthem and all that jazz. So, you know, there was like this trifecta, you know, DMX, Ja Rule, Jay-Z. I was exposed to those three, and they were like the horsemen at the time in my mind, you know, like the three horsemen. I saw them on the magazine and Murder Inc. You know, I thought that was going to be like the biggest super group at the time. And I just remember it making me so excited as a kid to have like the top three artists that I saw at the time to be like, you know, together. So, you know, like seeing DMX and Romeo Must Die was like the biggest deal for me. Like rappers in movies, like I knew like there was Boys in the Hood and all of that, but DMX in a movie was just in a martial arts movie, mixing hip hop and R&B with martial arts was like, yo, I copied those moves and did those moves in my living room like so many times. I must have seen that movie so many times, and Exit Wounds and stuff like that. But the first album that I bought from DMX was And Then There Was X. And I listened to that album back to back almost every day on my CD player that my mom ordered for me like through the mail. Like she ordered a bunch of CD players for my sister and I through the mail. And my mom used to give me $20 a week, and I would take it and go to the CD store. And that same year I bought And Then There Was X and Jay-Z's Volume 3, Life and Times of Sean Carter. Actually, no, sorry. Jay-Z's Volume 3 was first. That was my first actual album that I ever bought. And then There Was X came next the following year in 2000. So, yeah, I remember listening to What These Bitches Want on the album and realizing and noticing how different it was from the video version, and it would upset me. Like at the time, like on album versions, I didn't understand the difference between an album version and a video version or a radio version. Of course, there was the clean version and the raw version. Of course, you'd get the raw version on the album, but there were like additional lyrics or like additional, like an extended version or like just additional vocals on certain songs back then, or obviously hidden tracks on the albums, you know, like you'd see the video and it's like, okay, that's a single, but when you buy the album, where is that single? Oh, you got to find it. Oh, that's just a promo single. Like music and hip hop and how albums were put together and stuff was just so fun for me to figure out, you know? And yeah, that And Then There Was X album was really deep, and hearing the prayers, and I don't know. I cried for two artists that have passed. I cried for Aaliyah. That was back in 2001. I was a kid still, but I cried for her. I just cried when she passed. The second artist I cried for was Nipsey Hussle. I cried for him. I just felt, you know, I felt it. DMX, as much as I adored him and looked up to him, I didn't cry because I know that he's free now. Like, there's no need to cry. He's lived his purpose, and I feel like he's freed. He's free now. You know, you could tell just listening to the music, he was a tortured soul. You know, he's been through a lot. And, you know, the last few months of his life, you know, but apparently he was sober. So I'm not sure exactly what happened. I refuse to look up what actually happened. You know, I see they're saying that he passed from an overdose and all that jazz. I don't know what to believe anymore, and I try not to feed into it, but I do know that that was his time. He's 50 years old. It's his time to go. And I do believe that he's happy and free now, because here on this earth, he was just anointed. He saw the world very differently from the average person. And his prayers were more than just a prayer. It was for us. He prayed for us. You know what I mean? So his time came, and it was his time to go. So, rest in peace, DMX. I know that there's some new music coming out as well. Swizz just released a new track for the Godfather of Harlem TV series, and DMX is on the original theme song for that song, Just in Case, which I've spoken about. So, yeah, his catalog has spoken for itself, and he's left us with enough material to really revisit and get to know him, and to get to know him even more. But, that's, just another soldier that we've lost, especially in the music business. So rest in peace, DMX. You've meant a lot to me. Yeah, we just got to keep that energy going. I also watched the Rough Riders Chronicles, and it sort of detailed a lot of things that was going on in that camp and stuff like that, and from DMX's perspective. So, and how they got DMX and everything. It shows you that talent supersedes. They say that product supersedes. Everyone says different things based on what's benefiting them. A lot of people say content is king, and product is 90% and 10% is talent. But in DMX's situation, he had so many trials and tribulations, and that never stopped anybody from pushing him or getting him on board and believing in him. His talent is what, they loved him regardless of his drug abuse or what he was going through. And they would go get this guy out of the trenches to come back to the studio and to create. It was about the art. It was talent. And I do believe when you have talent, you'll last long. You know what I mean? There's longevity in talent. But some might argue that, so who knows. Another loss that we experienced was Black Rob, not too far after DMX passing. And Black Rob passed at 51. And I remember receiving that album, Life Story. I think it was Life Story or Thug Story. On the album, there's a track, and it's either called Thug Story or Life Story. So they're interchangeable. I could be mixing them both up. But regardless, he had like a title track, which was in connection to the title of the album. And I think the album was Life Story, but the track on the album was called Thug Story. But regardless, that album was passed on to me by like someone I consider to be a big brother. I never bought that album. We would bang it in the car whenever my big brother at the time, Billy, would pick me up as a kid. Like his mom babysat me. That was a Greek family that sort of raised me growing up. So later, some years later, Billy and I reconnected, and this was like 99, 2000. And yeah, he had the album. This is like a Greek white boy bumping hip hop and stuff like that. And he said I could have the album, and it meant so much to me. I cherished it. So I have it somewhere, still saved. So rest in peace to Black Rob. We never got enough material from someone like that, but there's always this talk about who were the top 5 MCs at Bad Boy at the time. Black Rob did release another album. I think it was called The Rob Report. But Black Rob, I think, is in the top 5 of top Bad Boy MCs. We just didn't get enough material from him. So rest in peace, DMX and Black Rob. Let's talk about rule number 2, and it's in connection with what I was talking about earlier. So rule number 2, and I've posted this on my Instagram page. So if you haven't been keeping up with April rules, go to Only One Arys on all social media platforms. And you can follow the Who and How Club on Who How Club on all social media platforms, and you could go to the website www.whowclub.com. Also, if there's anything that you've heard today that resonates with you, feel free to touch base with me. Send me an email. I know people don't really, I don't know if they do send emails this way for shows and stuff like that, but if not, you could always just DM me directly, which a lot of people tend to do. But either way, the email is whowclub@gmail.com, and you could just share if you have any journeys to therapy or any thoughts on DMX or Black Rob, or if you're also trying to make a transition into working for yourself as opposed to working for others or these organizations out here that it's like slavery, feel free to holler at me, and we could share some thoughts and maybe inspire one another. But let's focus on Rule 2 today. So I posted Rule 2 on Instagram, and Rule 2 is trust the process. Now, what does trusting the process look like? What's the process? Like, whose process? Is it your process? Is it life's process? What is the process? Process kind of represents growth. The stages in between that you're going to have to experience until you get to that end goal that you have in your mind. Now, at times, we second guess everything that's going on in our lives. We even try to control everything. We even push away our blessings when the universe literally plants them right at our doorstep because we don't trust. We question the positive and doubt the positive possibilities or outcomes because we don't trust. Now, in my opinion, I think it's time to trust. Trust your journey. Trust what's meant for you. Trust the positive energy that comes to you when you didn't even ask for it. Trust the new opportunities and chances at love. Trust the in-between, because that's the fun part. You got to trust your gut and trust yourself. This is the process to trust. Now, we second guess a lot of things. We second guess it. We second guess ourselves. We don't believe in ourselves enough. We shut away, we close, I was going to say close off, but I really mean to say shut down challenges that come our way. Now, when I'm speaking to all of you, I'm speaking to me too. I'm trying to give myself advice. You know what I mean? This is not like the pot calling the kettle sneaky or anything like that. I'm in this with you because I got to wake myself up at times, right? I get caught and drenched in my emotions and my frustrations and stuff like that. But challenges are good. And if a challenge comes your way, accept it. Accept it. Take it on. Because the truth of the matter is that you're strong enough to take on that challenge. People are going to be people no matter what. They're going to say what they say. They're going to do what they do. They're going to think the way they think. And a lot of the times we get frustrated because these same people don't think, say, or feel the way we do. So there's a mismatch. You start to question like, yo, why don't you feel the way that I feel? Why don't you see this the way I see it? But we just got to accept it. We got to trust that these interactions, these things that you're going through, these challenges are all leading you to somewhere great, somewhere greater. Steel sharpens steel. So you're going to become something and someone greater after you go through these trials and tribulations. So trust the process. Trust that in between. You know how many times I had to create this show in order to even get to episode 49. Who would have thought? But I trusted the process. There were people that were involved and then weren't. But I trusted the process because I said, you know what? This is mine. I'm going to go through whatever I got to go through to get this off the ground. And I did it. And I shined. And I'm continuing to shine. But I had to go through some frustrations at first. I had to go through some disappointment. I had to go through some sadness. Before I meet the love of my life, before I embrace her, I've had to go, I have to go through the worst of them, the worst of the worst. I have to prepare for that new love that I'm going to experience. So I got to go through the shitty love first. I got to be a shitty boyfriend before I could be a great one. But I got to trust it. I got to trust my gut. And so do you. So rule number 2 for April Rules is trusting that process. All right? Trust me. I'm going through it. And I would never tell you something that, wasn't right and wasn't true and wasn't honest. Because I'm speaking from experience. With that said, I'm going to sign off. And I really hope that everybody out there is taking care of their mental health and their mental well-being. Take care of your hearts. Take care of your bodies, your minds, your souls, your spirits, and your energy. Don't waste any more time. And don't give anybody any more power over you. You set the tone. It's time to be happy. It's time to trust. It's time to move at your own pace, and it's time to do your own thing. Anyways, thank you for listening. Episode 50 is coming, and I got some dope plans. Shout out to the council. I'm going to be introducing some really dope people to you all. And these are people that have meant a lot to me. So keep a lookout. We're going to celebrate episode 50 together. And I'll be talking to all of you within a week. So you know the saying, you are the Who and How Club. I am the Who and How Club. And we are the Who's and How's of this world. Without you, without me, there is no we. And I've been your host, Arys. This has been the Who and How Club. And I'm signing off. I'll check in with you in a week. All right? 1.